A 10-minute true-life story about a prisoner who turned his life around and became a mentor. The first time Daniel Ross heard the steel door slam behind him, he didn't flinch. He pretended he wasn't scared. He pretended the cuffs didn't hurt. He pretended that the cold echo of the concrete hallway wasn't crawling all over his skin. But deep inside, he knew he was walking into a chapter of his life he might never escape. Daniel was 22 years old when he entered Brenton Maximum Security Prison. His crime wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't violent. It wasn't the kind of thing that made documentary films or got journalists curious. Daniel had been involved in a string of small burglaries, petty, stupid, desperate attempts to make quick money after falling in with the wrong crowd. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't carry a weapon. He barely understood what he was doing. But in the eyes of the law, he was part of a criminal operation. And that meant 8 years behind bars. It hit him hardest the night before his sentencing. His little sister Mia, only 14, sat across from him in the detention center's visiting room. Her eyes were red, her hair messy from crying. Daniel remembered how she used to brag about him to her friends, how he played guitar, how he could fix anything with broken wires, how he promised to take her to concerts when she was older. That day, she didn't brag, she just asked Danny, why? He didn't have an answer. Chapter 1. The hardest lesson. Prison life hardened Daniel faster than he expected. He learned to wake before sunrise. He learned to keep his back to the wall. He learned who to talk to, who not to talk to, and when to stay invisible. But even in a place like Brenton, you can't hide forever. On his 3rd week inside, Daniel was assigned to work in the textile shop. That's where he met Reggie, a tall, older inmate with silver hair and eyes that had seen everything. Reggie had been locked up for decades for a crime he never talked about. Rumors said he'd been a gang leader. Some said he'd been a bodyguard. Others said he was just a man who made one terrible mistake. Whatever the truth was, he carried himself differently, calm, controlled, a presence you felt before he spoke. One morning, Daniel accidentally jammed a machine, causing it to smoke and hiss. The supervisor started yelling, and everyone stepped back. No one wanted to be blamed. Except Reggie. He walked up quietly and said, "I'll fix it." Daniel looked at him, confused. "Why, it was my fault." Reggie shrugged. "You look like you're new to messing up." "I've had practice in 5 minutes." He repaired the machine. When he returned to his chair, he motioned for Daniel to sit next to him. "You ever worked with your hands before?" Reggie asked. Daniel nodded. "I used to fix stereos. Built my own speakers once." Reggie raised an eyebrow. "You got a brain. Use it. Don't let this place steal that from you." It was the first time since entering prison that Daniel felt someone had spoken to him, not at him, and it changed everything. Chapter 2. The Falling and the Rising. Reggie became Daniel's quiet mentor long before the word mentor meant anything to him. He taught him survival, Yes, but more importantly, he taught him responsibility, discipline, and self-respect, things Daniel didn't know he'd been missing. One afternoon during lunch, Reggie said something Daniel never forgot. "Son, you can't rewrite what you did, but you can rewrite what you become." It sounded simple, but inside prison walls, every simple truth hits like a hammer. Daniel started showing up early to work. He learned sewing, repairing machines, and even basic carpentry. He attended anger management classes. He took GED courses. He joined a small music program run by a volunteer who brought old guitars. And every week he wrote a letter to Mia whether she answered or not. But change doesn't come without challenges. Chapter 3: The Test. 2 years into his sentence, Daniel found himself caught in a confrontation that could have ruined everything. A fight broke out in the yard. Two men who had hated each other for years finally collided. They slammed into Daniel while he was walking past, and suddenly he was on the ground, fists and boots flying around him. He wasn't involved. He didn't throw a single punch. But prison didn't care. The guards saw movement, and that was enough. Daniel was thrown into solitary confinement for 15 days, while an investigation was opened. Solitary was nothing like regular prison. It was a cement box, a bed that felt like stone, a silence that vibrated inside the skull. On day 6, Daniel felt something he'd avoided for years: fear. Not of violence. Not of inmates. Fear of himself. He thought about giving up. He thought about quitting all the programs. He thought about becoming what everyone assumed he already was. But on day 8, Daniel received a letter. It was from Mia, a short, messy, teenage handwriting letter that said, "I'm proud of you for trying. Come home better than you left. I need you." It broke him. Not in a weak way, in a rebuilding way. He cried in that tiny room quietly, the way men cry when they finally realize they want more from life than survival. But when he was released from solitary after being declared innocent of involvement in the fight, he walked back into the general population with a different fire in his chest. Reggie saw it immediately. "You found your reason," he said knowingly. Chapter 4: The Turning Point. By year 3, Daniel had become someone entirely different. He tutored other inmates for GED tests. He helped in the workshop teaching new arrivals how to use the machinery. He stopped hanging out with troublemakers. He studied every night. But the biggest change came when the prison chaplain asked Daniel if he wanted to help with a new program. The Second Chance Initiative, a mentorship group for young inmates entering the system for the first time. Daniel hesitated. "Me? Mentor?" The chaplain smiled. "Who better than someone who understands the fall and the climb?" The first young man Daniel mentored was Louise, a scared 19-year-old who had joined a gang out of fear. He reminded Daniel of himself: the anger, the fear, the confusion. Louise sat with his arms crossed, refusing to talk. Daniel didn't push. He simply said, "When I came here, I thought I was done. But someone believed in me before I believed in myself. Let me be that person for you." Louise slowly opened up. Within months, he was taking classes, attending therapy, and learning to read better. Helping Louise changed Daniel more than any class or counselor ever had. He realized something powerful. He wasn't just surviving prison. He was becoming someone who could change lives.